Welcome, everyone, to episode 213 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantellaresco. I write stuff and podcasts too. Today, another writer, another podcaster joins the show. Tim Niederriter is my guest today. Tim is actually podcasts several different shows. He writes a lot of books, particularly novellas, which is, I think, a very understated part of literature. Novellas, I think... Actually, if I'm going to just go to a quick aside here, I think novellas are kind of the way to go. They're perfect for the phone, in my opinion. And it's really cool to see someone that that pursues that, and he constantly puts the work in and out. Tim is an example to me of what I should be doing more with my writing, and something I will be doing a lot more with my writing as soon as this next month is done. And what if next month it is? I am officially into overtime on the day job. The good news is this is kind of the last long stretch I think I'm hoping to ever have here. A lot of doors have opened these last few weeks, and it's been sucks that I've had to focus on what I've had to focus on now, but I'm really excited about the new year and about a lot of things that are coming my way and a lot of things I'm going to be trying. I've already started blogging about it. I haven't gotten to the writing stuff yet. I won't be revealing that just yet. There's a couple surprises I'm still kind of waiting for to kind of pop up, but needless to say that the next few days is about me finalizing the last few writing assignments I have for the remainder of the year, and I worry about next year, like literally as soon as December's done. I can't wait, and I'm excited. But I want to talk about, but let's get to that conversation with Tim now, shall we?
Okay, so the recorder's officially on. I want to do it again. Say something funny.
Okay, I've had two cats, but neither of them was all that funny.
Oh, okay.
Which is unusual.
I guess.
For a cat. I think.
You think? I don't know. Cats always seem to take themselves a little bit more seriously than dogs do. Right?
Well, yeah, but there's always that side of them that when they make a mistake and they look undignified, then they're very funny.
I actually think no. See, the way to get to like a cat's like childlike qualities, like yarn or catnip, one or the other.
And so you kind of have to provoke them, right?
Yeah, you have to provoke that out of them. They have this dignified, smart. It's like you smart / dumb. I'm not sure. They're amused. You amusing human. What are you up to? You probably
maybe they find us funny.
I actually do think that. I think cats are just dickish enough to find us funny.
But I think, well, the cat that's still with me here is I think she was raised by dogs or something, because she's really silly.
Oh.
Even though, but not in a way that's traditionally funny by cat standards.
Oh, okay. So
she acts more like a dog a lot of the time.
So you can play fetch with her.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
But, she's still a cat.
Okay.
She's hard to get rid of the breeding. But there you go. Anyway,
Oh,
that's kind of off in the weeds right away.
Oh no! Wait, hey, listen. This is what my show does. I mean, have you listened? I don't know if you've been listening to it lately, but it goes all over the place. I wouldn't really have it any other way. It seems to work.
Yeah, well, when you start with that question, you're inviting it to.
And that's actually part of the secret, because I see. This is a bit of a shock to me. People are nervous talking to me. And it's a shock to me, because really, I'm just me. I'm not trying to be anything more or less. And so what I do is, this is why I come up with icebreakers like, do you have anything incriminating you'd like to say? Right? And so, which, by the way, the now 16-year-old pop singer is still the toughest one to beat. Hers is the best. I stole everything valuable and patented. It's like, well, I can't really argue with that. That's amazing. So... I find that the important thing when you do an interview of any kind is you got to give whoever's participating permission to be whatever you'd like them to be. If you want them to be serious, well, then your first question or your first thing to strike a pose with should meant to break it breaks the ice. However, which direction you want to go with it, right? So. I find that I'm silly just as a general rule of thumb, because it breaks the ice. It makes whoever I'm interviewing relax a little bit more. Because if I'm not serious, they're not either.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. Establishing a tone is always important in any medium, really, any form.
Absolutely. And so that's kind of my thing. Like I said, I've hit some strange territory in a good way in the last couple weeks, but it's been like, it's almost like I have to get used to this again. And I know that might sound a little pretentious as fuck, but it's just one of those, wow, I did good things. How did this happen? You know?
I'm just trying to parse a little pretentious as fuck. It's a little confusing.
Yeah.
How do you be both a little and AF?
Well, it's just, yeah, you wake up one day and people say, like, literally to my right now, there's my trophy. I wake up, I go to work, I just look to my right, it's like, wow, I won that. And I still have that feeling, I won that.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe that'll go down. Maybe that swelling will fade after a while.
Yeah, I mean, well, yes, no, as long as I don't brag about what it takes to clean it, I think I'm good. Right, because once I get to the point where I'm going, hey, does anyone know how to clean an Aurora? I'm just going to hear a lot of, shut up!
Yeah, people will be throwing stuff at you.
Yes. And this isn't professional wrestling, so it's like, I can't just naturally be a heel, like just go like, hey, I am awesome, because then people think you're a dick. And they're right at that point, but I mean, still, just like, yeah, I mean, once you hit that point, I think then you got a problem. But I'm not there. I just look at it and go, so cool, and my name's on it and stuff. I mean, that is what it is. So you, my friend, have been, you've been busy yourself. 3 books.
No, not 3 books. Not now. At this point, it's more like 9 this year.
Oh, so I mean, only 9? You're slacking.
More than that, I don't know. I've released a bunch of stuff. It's hard to keep track of what's all out there, and I just released a short story recently, and there will be more books coming soon.
Yeah. Which
possibly before this.
Well, then you know what? At some point, it's going to hit with you too. Then I mean, although that is an insane schedule. Like, how do you? Just to be personal, I do have 3 books in post-production, but they're different sizes, different lengths. One's a novel, one's a golden Dr. Seuss comic. I can't even describe this properly, because it's such a unique, I've never done anything like it, like, ever. And I have another poetry book, but we're talking, like, different sizes, like a small book, a slightly bigger book, and then an actual, like, novel. You got like 9, like 3 novels in there at least.
No. They're not. Not to disabuse. No, I've got to disabuse you that notion. But it's mostly novellas that I'm publishing these days. They're 100 pages long. Is the new ones. But I'm trying to come out with one of those every 30 days or so in the same series, and then the other books are in addition to that.
So basically, but that's still a lot. You're looking at about, like, if you really sit there and do the math on that, that's what, 30,000 words a month?
No, it's actually like 100,000 words a month.
Okay, so
with the novels and everything, that's kind of the goal, is to hit at least 100K this month.
So yeah,
it is November as we talk. So
I mean, yeah, it's NaNoWriMo. So you're like, NaNoWriMo, breeze. Get there like 2 weeks from now. I can go play video games after that. I win. Well,
that's the thing. It's just not stopping is the key to getting more words done.
Oh, absolutely. Oh no, absolutely no. That's the important. Like, actually, any kind of discipline you're doing, you just have to constantly do it. That's really the secret to it. You show up and do your thing. I actually added a 5th rule. I remember. I don't know if we talked about this last time. I have 4 rules to success. Show up, do your shit, don't quit, the rest is rain. So I added a 5th rule. And it can be either, I'm thinking it's between 3 and 4. So it might be 3A or 4B, one or the other. Get out of your own way. Just let yourself do what you're going to do, and watch what happens, whatever that case may be.
Yeah, get out of your own way. That's really key. And in sometimes specifically, because I've had that thought a bunch, so yeah, good to hear it's made it onto your list of rules, because it makes so much sense. But one of the other things is, one of the ways I get in my own way is video games these days. And I don't even play video games that people have heard of. That's the weird thing. I play like little collectible card games on the internet.
Shadowverse? Please say you play Shadowverse.
No. I only play one of them right now. I am playing Gwent, the Winter card game.
I've heard good things about that, actually.
And then that kind of changed. I'm out of Gwent.
Okay.
No, I really love the old version of Gwent, then they changed everything. It's a new update when it came out of beta, and I don't know. I haven't really played it since then.
Okay.
But so Gwent's off the table, which is good because I need to pare down, right? I used to play Hearthstone. That was really terrible and a terrible addiction. And then, and I've played other games too, but right now it's this weird Duelist, which is like, it's like Hearthstone, but the board is grid. So you can move guys around it like chess.
Yeah, I've heard of it too. Like for me, my card game crack of choice is Shadowverse. It kind of feels
I've heard good things about
it. It's like playing Magic the Gathering almost. It feels that like Hearthstone. The thing about Hearthstone is the cool thing about it is the tone. I love the tone of all the characters they make and put out there. So it has a really fun feeling, even though sometimes the game itself is relatively garbage in terms of the decks you're going to see. Yeah. Right. Shadowverse, on the other hand, is like I used to be a really I wouldn't say I was a rogue style player in Magic the Gathering. I would come up with these decks that were just unique to me. My personal favorite was when way back when Calgary had a Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix, which was like 4 years ago. I was the first person to use Delver and Young Pyromancer together. I saw a deck with it. I literally went the Grand Prix the night before. I built this deck. I went in and I played it. And I almost made it to day 2. Like, I was a really good player once upon a time. And I enjoy scratching that. Itch, but I don't want to spend the money Magic takes.
Exactly. That's exactly why I switched to online games. Though now they have Magic Online, the Magic, which is exactly the original game.
I know. I'm afraid.
It got me into this kind of thing. Yeah.
No. So like that's that. I'm afraid of it because I know I'll enjoy it because I enjoy the game of Magic a lot. I really do. It's a lot of. Me too. It's a very creative game in the sense that, you can come up with a deck that isn't even whatever the big deck builders are using, and you can still be really competitive, and you can still do well. My last time I was in Standard, which was when the last Zendikar block was out, I built my own green-blue deck, and it did well in every tournament I played it in. Even though I didn't always win a tournament, I won some. And
a non-meta deck. You're not just playing what everyone else is playing.
No.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I love doing. I love figuring out how card combinations work. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is fun. Let's try this. So I built the ultimate value deck. And like, yes, this is good. And and then so all this to say is like I still get that itch every now and then. So I still have a commander deck, but beyond that, I'm just like, no more Standard. I'm just going to play online games. I'm going to play Shadowverse. I do play Hearthstone from time to time. I'm terrible, but I do like the rogue steal everybody else's stuff deck, so I play that.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Back before I managed to finally get myself out of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
I played way too much of that game. And I mean, it's sad because some of these games, they'll chronicle how much time you put into them. They'll have, like, you've played 150 hours of this, or sadly, more like 1,000 hours.
Dear God.
And I'm like, how many books and actually, I've done the numbers. And a novel for me takes about 100 hours to make. So imagine how much more successful I could be if I wasn't playing these games, if I was able to put all that time into writing, which is the real issue here is that you probably can't do that. But even half that time would be 5 more novels, 500 more words.
Well, I look at it more like this. What if you were, okay, so 1,000 hours. So let's just say for the sake of argument, you bandage it down to 200 hours for free time. Because let's be honest with you.
Sure.
We need it.
Something to do for
So 800. So let's assume another 200 of it goes away to random stuff. You might want to sleep more that day. Maybe an emergency comes up. Maybe your cat is getting some dog leg trouble, and you have to be a superhero. Whatever the case may be, right? So assume you have half of that time. Just half. Okay? Now, you can write a novel really quickly. You can refine a novel. You can come up, see what other projects kind of come up in the aether. Right? And same thing for me. Like, video games for me, like, I love the collectible card games. But the other game I'm a big sucker for is, like, games like Persona. Like, for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I love Persona. I love the Persona series in particular. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the world building. Like that game knows how to create a full experience. I don't care if you're playing 3, 4, or 5. Although if you're like me, you enjoy 3 simply because of the story. Although that's also one of the older games where Atlas still wants to make gamers cry. So, the Atlas's model used to be their tears, gamers' tears are our fuel. And yeah, some of those games, like you go really back into the RPG areas of that. Oh my god! But yeah, just so they get I love the Nintendo hard level. Like I just love it. I punish myself this way. I don't know why. I just do. But anyways, but
I have a twin brother who's way better at games than I am. My twin brother will he's just and the reason he likes games that are more action based, like Hollow Knight was the game he beat. I played it a little bit first, and I'm like, God, this is really difficult. And then he's almost 100% of that game now, I think.
Yeah,
which is really nuts because because that game is really difficult, and that's generally it's like a Metroidvania game.
Okay, yeah, I like those too.
Huge map, a huge dungeon, you platform around, you explore, and it's like Dark Souls meets Metroidvania. So it's that kind of game.
Oh my god, that sounds really good.
It's really cool. It's a really good game, but and there's all these tricks and little things you got to dig out, like in all good games, pretty much.
Well,
and but also there's just this deep well of skill that you need to be good at it.
Well,
that you can get so much better at it.
My favorite hard game, this is one of the few times North America got the harder version of. My first exposure to Devil May Cry series was Devil May Cry 3. So the normal is the Japanese hard, and that's what you start with, right? The Japanese hard. So the first time I play it, it's a super fun game. Level 1 is super fun. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. The music's awesome. The moves, the tricks are very So again, I'm an RPG fighter guy. I used to those were the games I really love, and Devil May Cry has this nice niche where I can kill lots of things, but you're leveling up, you're grinding, you're going through this big world. So I get my ass kicked to level 2. I just get my ass kicked. So you do it a couple times, and all of a sudden you see easy mode unlocks. It's like, you dicks. It's like, oh, you can't handle our hard mode here. There's an easier mode right there. You can handle this.
Oh, that's
evil.
That's really funny.
Yeah, no, it's.
How would you start over, you wimp?
Yeah, well, no, start off here. We have an easy mode just for you.
Yeah, how about you turn down that meter? Oh man, that would be me. I would jump right on that actually, because I generally don't care about the difficulty in a game.
Oh,
I get through it most of the time.
Yeah, so. well, actually, see, here's
really bad at games. So that's
no, it's all good. I enjoy. I eventually. It took a long time, but I beat that game. The last boss is insane because he's a better version of you. I'm like, oh god. So it's like he's a better version of you. It's like, oh, for fuck's sakes. And then towards the end of the battle, all he's doing is if you gotta keep shooting him, or he just heals all the way back to full power. It's like, you son of a bitch, just die.
Yeah, that's nuts. That kind of game, like those, I've never really played a lot of those, single action games, single character action games, but they just look super intimidating to me.
Well, I mean, they're just I find there's a game for everybody, right? I at this point. Once upon a time, I used obviously based on what you're hearing in this conversation, I was really into games, and I was really, really good at games, and so I loved the big challenges. Now, I'm in the middle age. I'm not as good as games as I used to be, because life goes. Listen, it's great that you're good at this game, but there's this thing called life. And you have to actually play that game a little bit better than what you're playing now. To which you go to life, but I want to play games all day. And life's just like, no, you can't. This is how it works.
This is not how it works.
Right? You're not making money at this. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm not making money at this.
Yeah.
Right?
That's to get deep for a second here, maybe. I think that's a really powerful realization, because if you don't, if you realize, well, this life is kind of like a game too, but the rules don't let you just goof off all day, do fun things that are, that build skills only within these small realms, these individual games. Well, and they don't make you any money, obviously. You can't stay playing the mini games forever, which is what video games are in life. They're the little side games you can play.
Yo, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I mean, honestly, I used to be pretty leery of video games. Then eventually I just kind of cut loose. Like in college, I basically didn't play any video games. And shortly after that, for a while after that, I didn't either. Not until the Hearthstone beta came out, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And that was the end of that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I like. I've always, but because I've been writing seriously for a lot longer than I've been playing video games serious, and at any level really. It's interesting. I mean, back when I was a kid, we had a Nintendo 64, and I started writing when I was 13 or 14 years old. So there wasn't a large gap of, there's not a lot of time there for me to become a serious game player before I don't even say gamer. I say game player because whatever. But I didn't play a lot of video games, and now and then I doing role playing games and miniatures games and war games. I guess those are usually the same as the miniatures games. But I like games, but writing is one of those games where you don't need other people to play it. Most of the games I like are against somebody else or with someone else.
Well, so I actually let's go deep into the game theory concept here of life, because I actually dig it. I learned something. I discovered something last year, and it was a good revelation. And this is the thing. People do what they want to do, no matter what. I recognize that, and it's like, wait a minute. People do what they want to do. So now that doesn't necessarily mean like there are things you can't control. You can't control when you're going to make $1 million. I hope you make $1 million. I hope I make $1 million, but I can't.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, right? But I can't control. Like, again, my rule: the rest is rain. There are things in life you can't control. But what tends to happen in life, I find, is the things we do now are the things that will impact us down the road. So I could play games my whole life, like going back to that metaphor for a second, but then I'm not doing anything else. And there's a lot more to life than playing video games. Dating, for starters. Although it's more gamer friendly for women now today, but even so, dating's nice. Going out and seeing and just experiencing things in the world, right? We as a person, a full, complete person, we need the ability to go out and create new experiences all the time. And we also have to be very careful about getting too comfortable in what we're doing. Right? That's kind of like that's one of the I call the dangerous parts of playing the game of life, is while too often we see comfort, right? And not necessarily what we want. And we have to be careful, because in the end, we do what we want. Do we want comfort? Do we want novels a year? Right? Do we want podcasts every week? Do we want... Does this make sense to you?
No, it makes so much sense. Obviously, yeah. Especially just the basic, we're going to do what we want. Individually, people will do what they want, given the opportunity, at least. As long as there's any opportunity to do what they want. Like, for example, if I want to play a card game on the internet, and that's really what I want to do in that moment, I do it. I'm a very poor willpower, to be honest.
Well, no, it's good. I mean, but it's an honest assessment. I find even when you have to do what those things, I will go one step further. I'd say no matter what the situation, people do what they want to do,
or they will try to at any rate. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So keep going.
Yeah. So yeah. People are going to try to do what they want, and like for example, here's a great one. When I was in high school, there's nothing I wanted to do more than write books. And then I found, and then arguably I got too comfortable writing books, because by the time I was 19, the books that I released this year, I wrote them, and they were pretty solid back then. They're much better now, but they were pretty okay for a 19-year-old's first book. But then I got so comfortable with the idea that I could write a good book no matter what I did. I ended up writing some really shitty books, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
When I was in English, mainly just one really, really shitty book. That was also the longest book I ever wrote on its own. It's like the classic literature situation. What is the book? Wonder Boys, which is a book by, I wish I remembered his name. I should really, Michael Chabon, the literary author.
Okay, yeah, I know him.
Yeah, so he that's a book about a book that he was writing, even though it's a fiction story. But I've read a book of his essays as well. I really like his essays. Not really a fan of the kind of fiction he writes because it's just so it's not science fiction or fantasy. It's literary fiction. Not the greatest joy for me to read. But that book's about a story that he tried to write, and it took him forever, and it was terrible, and he never really finished it. Instead, he turned around and wrote this book that I read the beginning of and found very difficult to get through. But at any rate, he finished the second book, right? And that's and it tells a true story. Basically, it's a story about writers who can't get their work done. And there's a lot of writers like that. And it makes me think that maybe what a lot of writers want is not to be writers. They don't want to write the book. They want to have the book. If that makes sense.
No.
And that's a kind of classic piece of criticism, and I don't mean to impugn anybody by that, but
we're all guilty.
The finished product isn't enough to get the finished product.
No, it's not. But first and foremost, I'm going to say this: we're all guilty. Tim has judged us all. Yeah. Tim has judged us all. We're all guilty, especially this guy right here. But in all seriousness, the thing about again, we do what we want to do, and the reality of the situation is there's also another part of this, and this is another rule thing. Simple and easy are not the same thing. A lot of people think they are, but they're not. Simple is, okay, I know what I have to do. I have to wake up and eat. The easy thing to do is I'll order takeout from this Chinese food down the street instead of actually cooking something. Because if I cook, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to take time, and it's going to take like 20, 30 minutes, right? But if I order, I don't have to worry about it. It's all taken care of. All I got to do is go back to whatever it is I'm doing. Simple. I need food. Easy. I can get someone else to get it for me. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so...
And, yeah, go on.
So, then I'll let you come in here. It's just, so my thinking is, like, comfort, the reason why comfort's such a big enemy to us when we don't realize this, comfort's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's one of the things. Like, I can play a game, and that makes me feel good, especially if I'm winning. But even if I'm losing, I often feel pretty nice about playing a lot of these games. It's comfortable. It's easy. Writing a book is so different every time. Writing a scene is different a lot of the time. Even though the mechanics are all the same, that's the funniest part. Like, I'm in front of a keyboard. I don't dictate. I never really dictated a whole lot, and I'm as perfectly comfortable physically as I could be, really. But on the other hand, mentally, things are different every time, because if they're not, and they feel like they are, and that's all that matters, I think, when it comes to writing.
Yeah,
is if it feels different, it feels exciting. That's good. But on the other hand, it's actually not that comfortable. Well, it makes it less easy to do it. Less simple to do, or I don't know exactly.
No, less easy to do it. Simple, yeah, yes.
Right, I got it.
Yeah. Simple is what you should be doing. When you break it down black and white, it's the black and white version of what you should be doing. It's not always that, excuse the language, simple. But I mean, but the idea of what you should be doing. I think all of us have that innate sense of that when we wake up, when we in your case, you hit the button at some point in the day. You're like, you know what? It's button time. Smash. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something you need to do every day. That all said, I mean, some days it's more challenging to get to said button than others. I mean, you got this obnoxious podcaster who screwed up on the first interview. You're like, can you please come back? And you're like, okay, fine, right? I won't hit the button yet. And then there's other things that can happen, distractions, and other things that can come into the way of it. So I mean, it's not always simple that way, but the idea every day is simple. You're going to accomplish something, whatever that is, and that's life, that's everything, and that's again, I think this is my board game of life, not the actual board game of life, because that's a cool game, but I recognize like the biggest challenge most of us have is we get in our own way. And what you have to do as a person at some point is you got to look at, okay, what do I do well? This is like a self-analysis here. What do I do well? What do I want to do? And what's getting in my way? Again, this sounds really, really simple, but it takes a long time sometimes to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to. I mean, to go back to the book, it probably seemed like a tangent because I didn't really get to my point. But that book, the Michael Chabon stuff, and the book I wrote back in college was a book that I wrote to impress my professors. And that's not a good reason to write a book. At least it wasn't for me.
No, it's the worst reason possible. Especially
when you're a science fiction and fantasy author, like I am. They're never going to be impressed with the kind of book I actually love. That's the thing. They might be impressed if they read it, but they'll never want to read it, is maybe a better way to put it.
Yeah, but you know what? That's their loss.
Yeah, exactly. I really liked my English professors, but they were not the same kind of readers as I am.
Well,
that's really the issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thing too, is just like the term like literary or what is good. I mean, the other wonderful joy about writing, and Stephen King mentions this really in he mentioned this in Dark Tower, specifically in Wizard and Glass. I'm going to spoil this. Are you okay if I spoil this?
I'm fine.
Okay, so they're on this train of the monorail, and they're engaged in a riddling contest with this artificially intelligent, insane train. That if they win, if they can come up with a riddle that he can't solve, right? They win. But if not, he's going to suicide and kill everybody on it. So everybody's taking this train seriously. 'Cause why wouldn't you take it seriously? Because he's going to fucking kill you. You're on this train, and that's just the way it goes. But except one of the characters, Eddie. Eddie's a bit of a clown, and he has a really, 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 really bad riddle. Like by design, a bad riddle because he's a joker. So the robot didn't like that riddle very much, and he listened to everybody else could go, and after a while he's just listening. And he's like, you know what? He didn't like my riddle. Why didn't he like my riddle? Because it was deliberately bad. Wait a second, we're going about this the wrong way. Good is relative. That's it. That's how I beat this thing. So when it was his turn to ask riddles, he broke the machine to pieces. Like, he made the machine have an aneurysm. Because he figured out that good is a relative concept. And that's it. And that's my point. Good is really, a matter of taste, skill, thing. And at the end of the day, no matter what kind of creative life, not just writing, but any creative life, you have to like what you're doing. I tried writing a noir story, and I can get into like a pretty dark place in my head, but I don't like staying there. I'm not built that way, right? That doesn't mean I can't have angst and I can't have moments of self-doubt and despair, but I have to like the character, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't, and I know I didn't because I don't like that kind of. I have a hard time feeling sympathy for someone that just wants to stay where they're at. And then even in real life, that's a big character flaw of mine, is I don't have it in me to be sympathetic to anyone that, if they're comfortable and they're happy and they're doing what they love to do, I'm totally for that. But if they're not happy, but they seem comfortable being unhappy, that bothers me. And like I said, it's a personal character flaw, I think. But the point ultimately is, you have to have the ability. You have the ability, if you want, to bring joy in anything you do, and you should, because if it's fun, if it's something you want to do, even if it's challenging, even if it's a different thing, even if you're not quite sure where you're going yet, that's best part. Are you having fun with the journey? Because this is as much a journey to the writer sometimes as it is to the reader.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. You're not leaving me a whole lot to say, which is fine. But I'll try my best though, because I think what you're saying is absolutely true for me, at least. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, if I'm trying to write a story that's just kind of, and honestly, in the past I've always written stories. Until the last couple of years, my stories were too weird for most people. They were too out there setting wise mostly.
Okay.
The story's normal. it's centered around normal kind of concepts of characters and conflicts, but the worlds were so strange that it was hard to fit anything into a genre, because I really don't like genres. But if you're going to be an independent author, you need genres. It's one of those weird things. You absolutely need them, because people don't look for independent authors by name, at least when you're new, right? And that's what I am. So I'm searching for. So I said, what can I do that will get me that I can enjoy? That I can simultaneously make weird enough in the guise of something that's because I really only enjoy weird settings. That's just part of my writing. I really only enjoy strange settings that most people would consider kind of off the wall. But when I write one of those, it has to make sense to other people eventually. I don't know. And doing that was such a challenge, because I thought, okay, I'm just initially my thought process, and this does go back. I'm getting there. It goes back to what you were saying about challenging, because I was saying this is going to be less challenging. This is going to be more boring, because it's got to be more focused on existing genres. And that's not true at all, and it turned out to be it's just wrong. I was wrong, because for me, writing something that's less weird is the challenge. Toning that down, controlling it is the challenge. Well, and it's got a kind of novelty to it, since I'm trying to do it.
Well, what I find is, okay, so just to give you an example, my current work in progress is a race inside a star. Mm-hmm. So it's a little different. It's like Super Mario Kart meets The Hunger Games meets that's my iPhone. Anyway, Super Mario Kart meets The Hunger Games meets just this like ultimate survival kind of novel. So it's a little different. What I find works for me, though, is there are certain stories like everybody experiences and goes through that people can relate to. So there's two parts to this. How weird how much crazy can I put in this race? I have pirates. I have a star that's slowly going from supernova to back to normal, and she's literally caught in the middle of this, so she's trying to survive this, right? Somehow, some way. Magic. We're the safe for the time being, for to avoid spoilers, because I'm not going to spoil my stuff. I'm a hypocrite that way, but what I find is, no matter what the concept is, the base story, whatever the base story is, right, it has to be something that people can relate to. Like, for example, in this particular story, one of the big themes of it is how the whole concept of living and dying, and what the difference of that choice is. You get that choice depending on certain points in your life. There's some points you just want to be alive more than anything else, and there are some points you're in so much pain you wish it was over. Right? And we all go through that in life. So that's a big part of her character arc in this first book. And I figure that's where I connect with readers. It's not so much, hey, listen, you want to do my Super Mario Kart death race? That's super cool. You want to come in for that? That's awesome. But for people that don't necessarily care about that, it's about that personal story. Like, what is your story?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So
that makes so much sense. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I'm thinking with you, maybe I think for you, maybe I'm misreading you. If I am misreading you, I humbly apologize. But it seems to me like you're cool with weird, right? You're told that the weird is better, and I'm telling you that you can make it as weird as you want to, right? But you have to, at some level, humanize your characters in a way that okay, you put them in a strange situation. So, what's the natural reaction to said strange situation? Is it?
Oh man, yeah, no, I think you're right. I don't think I'm having necessarily that issue.
No.
Issue now, though. I'm characterizing nowadays. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, yeah,
my real challenge was trying to make sure the characters made sense within the context of a crazy world, and I didn't get. And honestly, I used to get carried away trying to describe the crazy world, and that was part of the problem. For sure.
I love, like, for me, like, I think the perfect, like, world building, like, balance in science fiction is someone like Roger Zelazny.
Oh boy, yeah, Celeste's awesome.
No, I love Amber. Like Amber is like my favorite. Like honestly, as much as I love the epic fantasy stuff, like the Wheel of Time and the Way of Kings, like Stormlight Archive, there is something about the Amber series that made me go, I get it. And the beautiful thing about the Amber series, they're short. Every novel,
60,000 word books.
And he was able to look how he was able to cram in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that to me is art, because he has a complete story. He has cool worlds. He has magic, chaos, mayhem, adventure. Yet, especially the first 5 with the Quarren stuff. My God, that is such a character evolution from book 1 to 5.
Oh yeah, I really respect Zelazny's work so far. I actually have not finished even the first 5 Amber books, but I've read the first 2 basically. I'm still working on getting through book 3. Getting to start book 3, honestly. It's just weird how I get these. I come and go with reading, but right now I'm kind of gone as far as reading goes, which is too bad. I read a little bit, but I read a little bit in a bunch of different books, so it's hard to get through a series.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
I still read almost every day. I just don't. I just don't focus very well.
No, I got you. For me, it's been hard to actually read books this year. Like I'm. This is one of those things I've been readjusting, because for me it's been about, again, partially because I love playing card games on motorcycles, i.e. the collectible card games online. That's part of it, but the other part of it is I have so much. I work full time. I do podcasts. I write books. My time is really stretched, right? And I'm hoping to alleviate that somewhat early next year, but I haven't been able to read as many books as I normally get to read, and I miss that a lot, actually. So I'm hoping that one of the things I'm hoping to do next year is read more books. But that's kind of the goal. I want to get back to where I'm reading 40 or 50 books a year, because that's comfortable. I used to be able to read more. I don't think I have the time to read more anymore. Damn, this is getting old shit. You don't have time for all the cool things you did anymore.
A book every week and a half is still really fast by a lot of people's standards. It's a lot of books.
Oh, I know, but I want to actually. I read still incredibly quickly. I still read. Well, I mean, I still read comic books every week, so it's not like I don't read. It's just I like for like the bigger like novel kind of stuff. I haven't had the time to read as much as I'd like to. So I mean, I've read 18 books this year. I'm hoping to get to 24 before the year's out, because I can do it. I know I can do it. It's just I want to rebalance my time, which I find is a really big thing.
Yeah.
Cursed middle age.
Well, other than your midlife crisis, I don't think you have much to worry about as far as. Well, you obviously have a lot to worry about. I don't know you that well, but I guess what I'm trying to say is you're already reading more books than I am, which is interesting, right? Like I'm in the middle of more books than you have read this year, but I have finished maybe 3 or 4. So that's really the crux of my problem is the hyperactivity, the inability to finish reading a single book.
Actually, I have a solution for you if you're up to it. Honestly, go to graphic novels.
Okay.
The reason I bring that up is I have a friend who's got an ADD issue, and it's like you can train your mind out of those thinkings. You can do it, but you can't do it overnight. It's like look. The brain needs its smack, man. It needs to do what it does. You can't condition it overnight. Okay, you're going to be this wired, focused. No, it doesn't work. It just.
So training wheels is graphic novels.
Well, not even. But also, the graphic novels do have an advantage over traditional prose. Is this pretty pictures? And don't misjudge that. That goes a long way.
I love comics and graphic novels and that kind of thing. I have a bunch of manga that I actually have yet to get to. I have a ton. It's funny because I had a friend who was at one point unloading tons of comic books, comic collections on me. So I have a lot to read in that regard that I've not gotten to. That's interesting.
What do you got? I'm just curious.
The main ones, I've got complete runs of Y the Last Man.
I hate you.
Preacher.
Okay.
And those are the 3, the manga. So those are the 3 that I'm still thinking.
So you have 2 of the best comic series of all time. Why is
I know. He just was running out of space, so he gave them me.
I'm so jealous. You have no idea. You have no idea how jealous I am.
Which ones do you think? You're thinking about the two traditional Western comics?
Yeah, no. I don't know what manga you got. There's some manga that make me go. I probably will make me go. I hate you too. Although I have most of the manga is a little from a collectability standpoint. Manga is easier to acquire.
Yeah.
So, but you have original Y the Last Man, which you can't find.
They're not the comic books. They're the collections.
Okay. Those are easier. Okay, I'm not as jealous of you.
The soft cover.
Yeah. Then I'm not as jealous of you now.
But I have the whole series, so I can read the whole story. That's the nice part.
Yeah. So no, I thought for a minute you had the original floppies. I
didn't get the original comic books. That wasn't the same. It's not quite that way.
Oh, okay. Because I would have cried a little bit actually at that once. Like
just like some people have all the luck.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that wasn't quite that lucky. Though actually, these are more durable, so it's kind of.
Well, that's the trade-off, right? Floppy books are. I have to buy bags and boards for my floppies, but I enjoy my floppies, right? It's like, hey.
Yeah, I've never followed comics week by week or month by month.
It's a good / bad habit to get into.
Yeah, it seems like an expensive hobby compared to.
Actually, well, okay, so. Here's how I look at it. It really depends how many books you buy. I've cut my collection significantly. I like keeping my ongoings to somewhere between 15 and 20 books a month. Which when you sit there and figure that out, that's $80. But if you also sit there and figure that out, it takes me about 10 minutes to read a comic. So I'm paying $80 a month to basically go. Okay, so figure this out. That's 20 bucks. 10 minutes.
8 hours.
Yeah, that's 8 hours of entertainment for $80.
If you get 50 comics, yeah.
Yeah. Now, if however, there's a balancing point, like where the cost versus time thing gets insane. Like I've seen people with stacks so big that you're like, geez, do you have a life? Because I can't do that anymore. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you can go and look at it and go, okay. This is what I can do. This is what I will do. So for me, it's 15 books. I probably about 20 books a month. So about 80 to 100 bucks a month, and that's my hobby. And it's manageable. It's for the time I put into it. It's actually relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's kind of nice because if you have you can't have a bunch of hobbies that eat all your time.
Exactly.
Right? You can't have a bunch of hobbies where you spend a ton of time on each of them. So if you have a hobby budget, it makes sense that like, okay, I'll enjoy these a lot, but they're quick, so I'll get the rush fast.
Exactly, and that's why going back to your ADD. This is why comics is a beautiful thing for you, because you get your rush. It's quick.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I think like if you're gonna train yourself to read longer books and get pretty like now, there's a point. Like I mean, the hard part is you're gonna eventually get to the point where the pictures aren't going to be there in the novels, and you're going to be kind of sad, because I am always sad that more novels don't have pictures in them. And honestly, I'm shocked at that, because I think a lot of novels would do better with a little bit of illustration, not a ton, but
occasionally.
An occasional illustration here and there would do wonders. I think for the book, it's almost like a perk up. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think it would do good with a lot of books. Just my opinion. I know nothing, but
no, that's really interesting, actually, and that's like the light novels and stuff they have in Japan.
Yeah, no, I love those.
Books of pictures. That's great.
Well, no, I love those. I mean, I'm going to quote Neil Gaiman. We paint a picture, it's art. We put words on the page, it's art. We put them together, it's junk. What the fuck?
Yeah, Neil Gaiman, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to comics.
Oh yeah, he wrote this.
And obviously what he's saying there is, that doesn't make any sense. Of course comics are art.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So
actually, that was some of the first comic books I ever read were the Sandman collections, the early ones of those.
Those are fantastic. Actually, to be honest, they're still my favorite Neil Gaiman stuff.
Honestly, I agree. I think Neil Gaiman, he's a fine prose writer, but there's just something to the comics that he doesn't deliver in the prose even better.
I love his shorts. Like, his short stories are amazing. His novels, I'm not as crazy about. My favorite novel of his is Neverwhere. Okay. I like The American Gods. I'm not crazy about Nazi Boys. M is for Magic is a brilliant little collection. I love that little Bradbury homage. I'm a Bradbury guy, so for me, it's like, okay, I gotcha. But it's more. He excels. I think, like Stephen King excels best in a novella setting. But he's great. But okay, didn't put this in perspectives. King is good at whatever he does, but in a novella is where he does his best work.
Yeah.
And I think Gaiman is a good novelist, but he's a great short story / comic book guy. He's great at those things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because you're not going to be perfect. You're not. I mean, you're not going to be you do your best work in every medium at every length. You know, it's just not possible.
Exactly.
So you can be better at certain things, and it makes perfect sense. You know, especially because he started out as in comics, if I recall.
Yes.
It makes sense that he had more practice and time into that.
Well, it's also where he got.
But now he's had so much time writing novels that it's hard to say.
Well, again, I like personally as a novelist, I get why people like Gaiman, but I read Ray Bradbury, Charles DeLand, and a few other people before him. So he doesn't do it for me quite like everybody else, with a couple of exceptions, Neverwhere and Good Omens. But he also, I think most people like Good Omens. If you don't, I think there's something wrong. But that's okay.
And Good Omens. I mean, it's also it's interesting because Good Omens is also a collaboration.
Yes.
And so Neil Gaiman is a great collaborator. He also did I think it was the English translation for Princess Mononoke.
Yes.
Yes. Movie, the Studio Ghibli movie or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he did.
Yeah, and that is like that translation is really amazing. Actually, most dubs are kind of clunky, especially from that era, but that one is not.
No, but and this is actually a big compliment to Gaiman. He was a fan of the work, and he did the best he could with what he worked well within the limitations that were given to him, and amazing. He's also a good TV writer too. I loved his Babylon 5 episode. So I mean, it was fun. He's a good writer. He's a really, really good writer. So
yeah, I mean, I think most people who read books could acknowledge that.
Yeah. Well, no. Again, he just and personally, he just doesn't do it. He just doesn't do it for me like DeLint does it for me or Bradbury does it for me. And I think he'd be okay.
No,
and I think in real life, if I said he didn't do it for me like Ray Bradbury, he'd be okay with that.
I mean, it's hard to compete with some of the all-time greats, right?
Yeah, it's like
I mean, like that's not a damning condemnation. That's kind of like, well, that's good company to be in if you're comparing these two guys.
Well, that's it. No, but I mean, he's in that same like literary genre. Like he's definitely like there's modern era people like Robert Sawyer to me is a modern day Asimov, and I know he loves that comparison, so I'm going to keep using it.
There you go.
Right, Spider Robinson. I just interviewed him, but I've been reading more of his stuff. He reminds me of a very old school Robert Heinlein. Right, so we have a Heinlein, right, and then Neil Gaiman, if you really sit there and think about it, is a modern day Ray Bradbury. That is not a terrible company to be in. So if I ever get him on the show, I will actually play this clip over and over again. I know I will.
Well, that'd be my honor because this episode to just have you ranting or explaining to me at least is that's cool. I mean, Anyway, no, and that'll scare him off.
Yeah, totally. I rant on my own podcast, Neil. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Mr. Tim, I think we have a decent interview here. How about you? What do you think?
I think so. It's been a good time.
Yeah. And once again, I apologize. Things that I really, really do. This is a lot better. I think this time around, although I didn't make you laugh quite as much this time. I thought. Yeah,
I just knew it better. I knew what to expect more.
Yeah, exactly. You were ready. You're ready this time. It's like he's not gonna make me. He's not gonna crack me on air much. That's. So there it goes. But anyways, so this is gonna air like really shortly after. So what's coming up for you in the next month?
So I have the next Spells of the Curtain book. So that will be Fire Mage. That's the sixth novella in my series of stories featuring shapeshifters and magic in a strange fantasy Cold War kind of setting. And then I have there's a lot coming out, but I'll just stick to the highlights. So the really big one is I'm finally coming out with a Pillar Universe novel. This is a novel I wrote a few years ago, but it's called, what is it called now? The title has changed a bunch. Stormfleet, which is the first Pillar Universe book, and that's science fiction, space opera type stuff, but set in a universe that is totally unlike anything anybody has ever thought of except me. And I can very confident saying that.
Which is awesome, by the way.
It's pretty amazing to have that. I'm not just a lucky guy, right? We talked about that earlier. Because that's a setting I've had since I was, like 10 years old.
Absolutely.
And it took over 15 years to make it make any sense, and now I will be passing it on to the world to see what they think of it.
Nice.
It's a good story too, honestly.
Oh no, I'm not. By the way, I'm not giving you platitudes. I'm looking forward to legit checking out when it's ready and going. Deep breaths. It's gonna be good.
Deep breaths.
It's gonna be good. Okay. So how can people find you? Oh.
People can.
One last thing. You have podcasts too. You should actually plug
Yes,
those.
I do. I have every week, every Wednesday, I have Of Mooks and Monsters, which is kind of an awkward way to say it, but Mooks and Monsters is the important part. I do that with Rob Ward, who's an actor, and it's a great show. And then it's about role-playing games. And then I also have a live after reading that comes out on Sundays, and that is the show that this fabulous host has been on. And it's where I talk with writers. Actually, not that unlike this show, just not quite as funny. I talk with other creatives, and we just have a good time. It's conversations with writers, basically.
All right. Now, how can people find you?
People can find me at mentalcellarpublic.com, Cellar with a C, because you go to the basement. It's not quite the gutter, but you go to the basement when you listen to my shows and you can examine my work. It's a weird place, and or the timniederriter.com is the other place you can find me. They're the same site, so either of those will do the trick.
Okay.
And then you can find me at Amazon.com, because that's where all my books are.
Awesome.
And that was my conversation with Tim Niederriter, ladies and gentlemen. Tim is awesome. He's always got cool material coming out with his books, and his podcasts regularly air. So I've been on the show. He's an awesome interviewer. He's a good host, and Tim being hopefully a good host in your name. Feel free to come back anytime you want. Whenever you want to promote something new, let me know. I'm happy to have you. Check him out. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. You can support this podcast a number of different ways. For starters, you can subscribe to it through iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or Podomatic, or any other player you can possibly imagine. I am on it. And you leave a nice review, kind words, suggestions. If you hate the podcast, say that too. I would rather you didn't, but hey, say what you want. Just get the word out there. Tell your friends about this show. I really, really enjoy doing it, and I enjoy the people I have on it. And I hope you guys too when listening to it. So there's that. Number 2. My books, The Watcher, Stormdancer, Wandering God, are available at miraclepublishing.com. You can check me out also on Amazon, Kobo, wherever books are sold, brick and mortar or electronic. You can do it that way. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pantellaresco. I'm on Instagram, Facebook as J Pantellaresco. Feel free, come by, say hi. And beyond all that, though, stay inspired, do your thing, show up, do the thing, don't quit, the rest is rain, and above all else, just get out of your own way. Good things are going to happen to you. I promise.
Josh.